Greetings, Patrick here. Welcome to Eight Questions with. So I have some good news and I have some weird news. So I have a new phone, but I am on delay. I am hearing myself in the background, and I really don't know what to do about that. I have all my sound turned down on my monitor, but yet I'm still. Oh boy. Hopefully it won't be too annoying. I have to figure this out. I didn't think this was going to happen, so I'll have to do a test run as soon as this interview is over and see if I can figure this out. Um, well, welcome to the show. This is Eight Questions with. I'm your. Well, this is going to be really annoying to me. Um, hmm, let me poke around here for a second. Okay. Let me know if you guys can still hear me. All right, testing one. Oh, hey, Stephen, how are you? Oh man, I didn't think this was going to happen. Hmm, I am on a delay. Wow. Well, this is going to be all right. Oh, my sound is down. All right. Okay. Is there anybody in the chat that can hear me? Okay. This is not good. Hey, Byron, how are you? Am I coming through on delay? Are you hearing me speak twice, or is it just one? Because I got a delay. This is a new phone for me, and I don't know how to kill my sound on the phone. I think. Yeah. All right. We're going to have to go for a Hail Mary here. It looks like we're going to have to live with the curse of Aster one more time. Okay, testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Okay. Oh boy. All right, so we're gonna have to go with Ari Aster one more time. All right, testing 1. Okay. Okay, so I'm not echoing anymore. All right. Okay, testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Yeah, I put the phone outside. Let me try it again. I can still hear it. I can still hear my phone. All right. Well, Hopefully that will work. Of course, we are now at the mercy of the curse of Astor, which means I'll be being booted off here during our interview. Whenever got a new phone yesterday, and they said that the battery was thinking about kicking it, dying out, which is reason why I was getting booted off. Um, with this phone here, the battery gets heated up and then it just kicks you off. Hopefully, it won't be that bad. We'll go as long as we can with it as far as we can. Our guest tonight is actor Nick Baillie, and we'll be talking with him in a minute. Um, we're going to be talking about a wider assortment of films that he's appeared in, of course, including the new Western film, The Wide West, which is a terrific movie. It has a lot of love for it. I got to talk to Alexander and Joe and the lovely Tatiana. Yeah, it was a fun film, and Nick was in the middle of it, playing Judge Osborne, and so we'll be talking with him. I was looking at his body of work, and I see that he played in this movie called Turbulence, and I'm looking at the movie Turbulence, and not only does he get to be Dina Meyer's husband, TV husband, but he also got to act with uh, uh, Victoria Pratt. Those are two of my very favorite. Those are my two of my very favorite actresses, and Nick got to work with them both, and he got to work with Tatiana and Carrie Goodwin. So yeah, the man he gets cast in some really fun projects, and we're going to be talking about a movie that he also did that we'll talk about too, and it's a strange twist. The movie's called Malicious, and that's a I told him that's a cat shit crazy movie. I'm not kidding you. That movie had me. It was just really something else. I haven't seen a movie like that in quite a long time, to be honest with you. Probably since probably since Martyrs. Probably since Martyrs have I seen a movie this extreme. So we'll be talking with Nick about that as well. Uh, Tomorrow night, we have the lovely Dylan Von Harvey. She will be our guest. Uh, she'll be our guest tomorrow night, and I can't wait for that. Dylan Von Harvey is one of our very favorite guests. She is really, truly. I mean, you see the movie that she's in. She's in a lot of great horror films, um, and sometimes she's a little bit sassy in them. But quite honestly, she is one of the nicest and most. I'm going to say this because I truly mean this because I just have so much respect for her, but she's a damn good actress too, and she works at it. She works hard at her craft, and it definitely shows. And she's a really lovely lady to talk to, and she'll be here tomorrow night, and we're gonna be talking. We're gonna be talking werewolves, because why not? Uh, I first saw Dylan in a movie called Bone Hill Road, which wasn't my cup of tea. Wasn't my necessarily cup of tea, but I liked her. I thought she was and I like the director Todd Sheets, which is really funny because when you watch this movie, on Bone Hill Road, you would think the guy was just yeah, blood and guts. But Todd and Dylan as an extension, um, super nice people. Off, I said this before when I watched before I watched Boat Hill Road. Um, I watched the making of that movie before I watched it, and boy, oh boy, people just absolutely love working for Todd. And Dylan is one of his go-to actors. She does a lot of the films that he does, and she works hard at it. There's a reason why she is a in-demand actress in her town, because she works hard. She shows up. She knows her lines. She probably knows yours as well, and makes for a really fun discussion. All right. I should talk to you guys a little bit about what's coming up in the calendar. The calendar's sort of wimpy this month. Just trying to get back in this, the roll of things. I've been sort of like lately, but we'll try to get it going. We do got some great shows coming up here. After tomorrow with Diane Fon Harvey, I'll be back on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. We will be doing another watch party. I'll be joined by the one of the stars of No Tears in Hell, Gabriella Westwood, and she and I will be watching She Is Love. Me and Gabriella, who's been on the show a couple of times, we also have a mutual love for all things Haley Bennett. So when I asked her if she wanted to do a watch party for Haley's movie She Is Love, she said yeah. So I said yeah. I'm like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Um, I think the movie's charming. It has an interesting backstory on it, and the doorbell has rung. So so far so good. We're so far so good. We we haven't been kicked off yet, but I'm sure that will happen before our discussion with Nick is over with. So hang on, hang on. Hopefully this will be the last time this happens. All right, so Nick is here, and let's go get him. Greetings, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see you in one piece. Because after I watched Malicious, I was like, I hope my guest is here tonight because
Yeah.
yeah. I I was watching the last scene there, and I just sitting there going like, I wish the hell that would roll over and go look at him and go like, I can hold my breath a long time.
Well, I definitely made it out by the skin of my teeth as the actor, but yeah, that was a very challenging experience.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
it looked like it. The only thing I kept on thinking too was the amount of trust there had to be for those scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
probably off the chain as far as trust goes,
Yeah.
because it could have gone
Yeah.
wrong so bad.
Yeah, and I was physically tied up. Like, I mean, I could get out, often like but I really liked to have the actual hands tied to give me that um, sense, of really being unable to get out of the chair, And Kevin is such a great actor to work with. We really worked together. We communicated about the whole process, and he really knows stunts and how to throw a punch, and really how to go 100% and make sure that we keep the safety aspect alive, keeping the actor alive. And John was always monitoring that, and so it was really great experience. I wouldn't want to do it again because it really was
Oh,
hard on me.
I want to talk about that too because I watch a lot of horror. It's no secret. I watch a lot of horror, and it's like you watch a movie like this. We know the character is despicable. Definitely, absolutely, no
Yeah.
compassion necessarily for Will. But what really got me was just how just. I mean, to me, it's like, wow, you probably could have, you probably could have got him to confess, but the extreme violence on that, you actually went from like, man, that guy, he deserves to be locked up for 30 years, underneath the jail, to really by the end of the movie, especially the twist on it, you're going like, man, here we thought you were the true evil one, but were you?
Yeah.
There are some things that are even worse than what you did.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
nobody is virtuous in this movie. Maybe the daughter. She's the only one that really has any moral standing there. But everybody has really, a very dark side to them. And I found it made, I found it very interesting, as a just as a story, and that I mean, I don't want to give too much away about it, but that essentially the wife was the one that was the
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 ringleader.
mastermind. Yeah, exactly. And but she didn't even realize how deep, I mean, all of us don't realize how deep we are, ultimately.
No.
And and it was a fine line to walk as playing the role, where I somehow had to find that side of me that I still felt like what I was doing was whatever, that I had my own version of how I felt I was a good guy, and so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't really root for anyone in the end. It's not a happy ending, unfortunately, but it
No.
was it was a quite a journey, and a great challenge. I really loved working with John. Just a great open director who's I mean, he co-wrote it with Kevin, and just very collaborative, willing to really explore as we went. As a matter of fact, what happened was, here, I'm just going to turn my fan on here so I get a little bit of air. Hopefully it's quiet enough. Let me know if the noise. I'm in Toronto right now, and it's very hot out. And I turned the air
I was
conditioning
gonna
off.
say
So
you're I was gonna say you're Canadian. I could hear it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, we decided or John decided to shoot it in sequence. So that movie is shot 100% in sequence.
Oh,
Um, to my knowledge, I don't think we did anything out of sequence, and which was the first time I'd ever experienced that. Most movies, it's you shoot one section and then you start with the ending and whatever, and you have to piece it all together. We were in one location in the Poconos, in Pennsylvania, and it was a cottage on a lake, and we basically lived out there for about a month, and just yeah, we scheduled it that way. So about 2/3 of the way in, we started to realize, okay, it was written differently, where like Will at one point he gets up and he decides to or I've forgotten Kevin's character's name right now, but Kevin's what's that?
Jesse.
Jesse, that's right. Jesse decides to let Will up. That wasn't originally in the script. As a matter of fact, one day I met up with John after work, and we were just kind of going over the script and the plan for the next day, and he's like, "You're getting beaten too much. Like, there needs to be a some sort of mano y mano, like a whatever, dominant man against dominant man, and you need to step up somehow." So he said, "I'm going to start rewriting the end of the script," which was, the luxury we had because we were shooting in sequence.
But he forgot one small item about that. I mean, it was good that he did that, but there was just one small part that did make it, because I saw that, I was watching that scene too, but I'm going like, well, you're not going to get any mustard on that when you have no kneecaps.
No, yeah, it's a very good point you make. It's a very good point. And there was kind of that, and I actually, we talked through that, because it's kind of like, okay, there's certain points in movies where you have to kind of like, I guess, suspend certain level of disbelief. I mean, the fact of the matter is, somebody hits me in the kneecap, with even one kneecap, I ain't getting up. Like, this is
right.
So in that sense, we kind of went beyond the and it was interesting as the actor. I was like, okay, like, this is absurd, but at the same time, okay, how do I make this somehow work? That I'm just on pure adrenaline, whatever it is, and how can I somehow make this version of what this quote unquote reality is work, and so you're right, you're 100% right there. But it was interesting because at the time, John said to me, tomorrow you're going to say, and I forgot what the line is, but something along the lines of, if you want to see what kind of man I am, why don't you untie me? Something like that.
Right.
And he said, say that to Kevin, but we're not going to tell Kevin that we're doing this. and let's just see, because Kevin is very method. He didn't.
Ooh,
Yeah, he didn't live
ooh,
on. Yeah, he didn't live on set. Like, he stayed off set. All of us were there, working. I'm very kind of in and out. Like, you know, I'm the devil in 1 second, and the next second we're cracking jokes at the craft table. Like, I'm very. I mean, in certain instances, I will sort of stay in it, depending on the level.
right.
But for me, I prefer, especially a movie like that, where it's so heavy and it's so intense, and a lot of it's directed at me. I need it to be kind of like light and joking and have some fun, and have a drink after work and all that kind of stuff. Kevin was I mean, he's military, right? He was a soldier, in I guess Afghanistan, or I think he went to Afghanistan. But either way, he was definitely, he's trained a certain way, so he's extremely disciplined. And you saw him how he was very ripped, and so
Yeah.
very, he wasn't eating anything bad, and and I have a hard time with that kind of thing. So but either way, that was his process, and I totally respect that. So when he would show up on set in the morning, it's because he was the outsider in the movie, so he felt like, I want to be outside from everyone. And it was a very camaraderie kind of movie. We all hung out on set, and we lived together, because we rented two houses, one to shoot in, and the other one essentially we were living in, and they were next door to each other. So it was almost like a summer camp kind of thing, and so he was the outsider. So anyway,
Did he interact with any of you at any time, and or did you have to wait
yeah,
till it ran?
no,
Okay, I was going to say, because
no,
I
no, no,
know.
no, no. We were, once he was there, we were, because we had to. He's a producer too, right? And we had to talk about certain things, and there were times when John, Kevin, and I all produced. Kevin and I did more producing than John, in the sense that John had the bigger job to do as a director. So we were kind of like, Johnny, don't think about this stuff. Like, logistics, don't think about that. You got your job to do. You're the director. Kevin and I can handle the. So Kevin was still, I mean, he was showing up with like props and stuff. So yeah, he was definitely, not full on method, but
Okay.
he
Yeah, I
knew.
was going to say, we were talking about trust at the beginning of the show, and I'm thinking,
Yeah,
man, if he's method, I mean, whew, I mean
yeah.
that the trust level had to go both, yeah, had to be sky high.
No,
I mean,
it was very, very, definitely. I mean, we talked it out. I've worked with Kevin a few times. I trust him implicitly, as he's a true professional, and he really knows what he's doing. And so yeah, I was never worried. And it was, yeah, we were always, as a matter of fact, he would, he'd be like, were you okay? Was that too close? Whatever, because a couple times there would be a little bit of a, contact, and that's okay,
right,
depending on what we're doing, So yeah, he was always checking in with me. So, but when we came up with that line, or John gave me that line to come in with the next day, I mean, he just kind of, it was really fun to watch him, react, and he just couldn't. It was hard for him to process it, actually, and he never. Again, I never feared for myself. I mean, at that point, I could take my hands out if I had to, but regardless, if Kevin wants to kick my ass, he's going to kick my ass. So there's no.
yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at that. I went, man, who,
Oh
I
yeah.
was thinking, yeah, he's in.
Oh yeah.
You
No,
know,
he doesn't.
he's a
He
new
doesn't
face to
just.
me.
He,
He
he
was
doesn't
new to
just
me.
look good. He knows what he's doing. Like, he'll kick your ass, or kick my ass anyway. So no, he's. I mean, if you look at his resume, I mean, he's done some amazing movies, a lot of independent films. He's a very successful producer. He's like me. He's, in the sense that he's more prolific than me, but in the sense that we create our own work. We work within the regular system, and we do, movie roles and TV shows and commercials and whatnot. But we the real roles that we want to play, we have to create for ourselves, and he's amazing at that. I mean, he's probably produced 4 or 5 films since we did that one. I've only produced one. So, you know, um, so yeah, I have great respect for him, and John, and our whole team. It was a really great crew, great cast, and so yeah, it was but it's not easy to watch.
I'm going to go to the chat real quick and catch up on that because we have some people coming in to watch the show. I want to say thank you for coming in, Ava and Brene and Cheryl. Thank you so much. And our guest for tomorrow night, Dylan Font Harvey's in the chat. Thank you. And she's at the gym, getting ready for the show tomorrow. I like that. I like that. Yeah, malicious. Malicious is that's a corker of a movie. It is playing now on Tubi, so you can go over there and watch it, and highly recommend it. But if you do have a bit of a weak stomach, I just want to give a little disclaimer before you go over there. It is a very intense movie. This is not this is a heavy movie. It's a good movie, but it's a heavy one. Yeah, and our boy here, while he gets beat up a little bit in this movie, but there's one thing I don't think Kevin got to do though. I don't think he got to start a movie because I was like I said hero level unlocked. You got to share a movie with Dina Meyer as your wife and Victoria Pratt, and I'm going like, that's my hero. There's my new hero. Nick is my new hero, and I'm going. And he got to do scenes with Tatiana and Carrie. Man, this is good. It's good to be Nick Baillie.
Yeah, I did a movie with Daryl Hannah once. I played her lover in a that was fun. I was a young actor, but it was working on with Dina Meyer was great. I mean, she was so wonderful to work with as my wife. And Victoria, I met her, but we didn't really have scenes together. She was in other parts of the movie. I may have done something else with her, but because she's Canadian too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she is.
And I used to do a lot of Lifetime movies, a lot of and she's done a bunch of those as well. Well, actually, the movie that we did together was
I think it was Lifetime.
Turbulence. Originally, it was called Flight 192 or something like that. I think that was the original. We shot it in where was it? Santa Clarita, I think we shot it in.
Okay.
It was fun. It was a great.
I know. I saw that. I saw the little clip in there, and I'm going like, and you were tied up in that movie too.
That's right. I forgot.
We're going like, man, what's up with this? Now I know why he said grab him a saddle and a horse. He's getting away from this all tied up stuff.
No, I want to get. I want to be the guy who has full use of his hands.
No doubt. I've had a crush on Dina since the first time I saw her on Starship Troopers. My wife thought it was the most hilarious thing. She let me have the one celebrity crush. And so I was like, man, it was always Dina.
Easier pass.
Yeah. And then I saw
and she's lovely as a person, like in person. She was such a joy to work with, so easygoing. Just amazing. It was really
she looks the same now she did back in Starship Troopers. Yeah. It's scary. You sitting there going like, there is such thing as the fountain of youth because she must found it because she really is not aged at all.
And in person, because sometimes people, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and makeup and all that kind of stuff and lighting. And in person, it was the same thing, And I mean, we shot that. Gosh, it was about 8 years ago. It was a little while ago, but it's fun when you meet someone that you've seen. Working because we get that same kind of struck feelings, and they end up being somebody that you really like. I did a TV show called The Dead Zone, and Anthony Michael Hall plays the role that Christopher Walken originally played in the original movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a very good show, and so I did an episode of that. And I played a priest who was possessed by the devil. I mean, it was a hell of a challenge. And, I grew up watching those John Waters movies, and 16 Candles and St. Elmo's Fire and, all those movies that Anthony Michael Hall was in as a kid. And to work with him, and he's about my age. I think he's a little bit older, maybe a year or two older than me. And it was great. It was such a kick to work with someone that I grew up watching, and then on top of it, he was a great guy. You know, he was actually a super, very thoughtful actor. You know, and I mean, it was his show, right? He wasn't directing it, but it was his show. It was, you know, it was, and he would still he still took the time to give me like his thoughts and help on certain things because I was a younger actor, and which I really appreciated. You know.
I think he took that show because he was, he was being typecast. Was always doing the young teen comedies and always
Yeah.
comedies. And
Yeah.
so he took that role as John Smith to break that, to show that it had a lot
Yeah.
more range. And when people are, it's always amazing when you see an actor do something new and people are sitting there going like, wow, I didn't know he could
Yeah.
do that. And it's like, well, of course
Yeah.
you didn't, because no one ever gave him the opportunity to show you what he can do. It's,
Exactly.
it's hard to,
And
to
that's
break that.
why, to come back to what I was talking about before, what Kevin and I are doing, and what Alex Nevsky does, and John Fallon, and a lot of my friends do, is we create our own opportunities. We create the role because in the general, I mean, it's one thing for Anthony Michael Hall, who did get typecast, and probably took him a while to be able to get, and even he has those difficulties. And other, even A-list actors have issues
Yeah.
with certain types of roles. So someone like myself, who's not, overly well known, we may miss out on those types of roles that we would like to get. So we create them for ourselves, and we get to play I get to play the bad guy, because often I don't get cast as the bad guy because I don't look like the bad guy.
Right.
Like a lot of casting is a little bit uncreative, and it's fun when it's a little bit thinking outside the box, and the guy that has the mustache that he's twirling seems like the obvious guy to be the bad guy. Well, you know what, the bad guy usually comes in a really nice package. If
Right.
you look at what's his name, that serial killer there, Ted Bundy,
Oh,
you know what I mean, like
right. Right.
so
Yeah. He was.
I mean, that's why he was successful, right? Because he looked the way he looked. If he looked like a creepy, scary dude, then people probably would have gone running. So that's why he was successful. So to me, it's more interesting. It's more real. It's what it is in reality. And they, people, they don't have to be pretty, but they don't also have to look like they're damaged to be the damaged one. So that that's kind of where this is where we get opportunities to or we create our own opportunities, and we're in a time where the industry is like it's a really interesting time, with streamers and it's a you can carve your own niche and make something out of it. Create a career for yourself, make some money, hopefully. You may
Yeah.
not make it rich. You're not going to probably strike it rich, to be honest with you. But you're doing what you love to do, and as long as you can keep doing it, and hopefully have some fun while you're doing it.
What is, I mean, without getting into specifics, but what is an average actor to live for a year? How many projects do they have to do? Because I mean, I know some TV shows, either like well-known TV shows or commercials, sometimes they pay a lot more than feature films.
Yeah.
Um, how many projects on the average do you feel like an actor has to work per year to keep their nose above water?
I mean, that's a tough question because, it depends on where you live. First of all, I mean, there's some people that, probably if you lived in Atlanta, I don't know what the cost of living is there, but likely it's less expensive than LA or Toronto or New York. It also depends on the types of jobs you're doing and what kind of money. I mean, I used to do a lot of commercials, and I could do one commercial and it would pay my whole year. So I did one day of work, and I was able to survive on that one commercial.
That's
Um,
something.
yeah, amazing. I mean, truly amazing. And then in other instances, I would do, multiple one-day jobs, and you make a couple grand, or whatever it is. It's not huge money, especially in Canada. It's a little bit different here in Canada. If we're doing it through the union that we work through here in Canada is called ACTRA. So it's our version of SAG. I'm a SAG member too, but you know, in the US, you get residual payments through SAG, although that's changing now because of the streaming, right? Streaming services, they're not paying those anymore. So they're basically buying you out, which is what they do here, right? So you get paid and you get bought out. So let's say I do a movie here that's an American production, and, you know, Clive Owen is in the, you know, he's getting a SAG contract, I'm getting an actor contract. I mean, that's a bad example, but the fact there are American actors that will come that might have similar roles to mine, and they're going to make 10 times the amount of money I make because it's under a SAG contract and they're getting more residuals. So to answer your question, it's a really hard thing to say, because you can, I mean, I know actors that work, you know, it's also, if you're not very smart with your money, I'll be honest with you, like I'm very good with how I manage money. So I know how to invest properly. So I'm not in a position where, I know actors that have made $250,000, and come tax time, they've spent all their money, they're, you know, and then they owe the government 60 grand and they don't have it.
Right.
So it's a tough question to answer. But, you know, it is possible, you know, if you manage your money and your time properly, you know, if you're lucky enough that, you know, you get some gigs like commercials. To me, I mean, generally commercials are always the best paying.
Right.
But again, these days things have changed. There's not as many commercials. There's not as much network television. A lot of stuff has gone non-union. And when it's non-union, there's no protections. There's no residuals. They just buy you out. It's usually, you know, for a fraction of what you would get paid as a SAG or an actor member. And, you know,
the last two negotiations that SAG after the last two contracts, I just couldn't believe how poorly and inept they were run. The negotiators, Fran Drescher, I guess she was president.
Yeah.
Man, I wouldn't trust her to show me. I couldn't trust her to give me directions to a phone booth. You know, I was just like sitting there listening to them, going like, what? I mean, they did nothing at all to protect the actors.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I didn't listen to any of it, to be honest with you, and I don't listen to any of the actress stuff either. I probably should pay attention more, but again, I'm just doing my own thing. Like, I'm not relying on, you know, casting directors, producers, directors. Like, if they want to see me, great, and if I'm interested, I'll audition, or if they want to offer it to me. I'm not generally an offer-only actor. I do audition, and that's fine. I'm happy doing that if it's the right thing. And I turn down more than I accept these days, because again, it's not because I'm better than it. It's just it doesn't interest me. I don't need it. I'm you know, I want to do my own projects and things like.
Say, with the actors that have, you know, that financial stability, you know, a lot of times you see like, to me, this is just, I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite actresses working right now. Now, I obviously don't know. I'm just merely speculating on this. But I know there's another actress too named Jennifer Jason Leigh. She was also like this as well, where they were big names. The other actress I was talking about is Haley Bennett. They're big names. They appeared in major movies, but like especially Haley, she does nothing but small films. She does small films. She hasn't done any. She hasn't. I mean, she's a leading lady.
Yeah.
She could do those. She could open up, and she's done The Equalizer. She did Cyrano. I mean, she's done major big projects.
Yeah.
But she always seems like she comes in there and does these small little projects, the ones that she wants to do. You know, and
Yeah.
I look at that and I'm like, that's someone who has the freedom of choice to do these projects. And what more exciting time to be an actor is to sit there and pick the roles that you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I couldn't be happier now, and in the sense that, you know, could I have more opportunities? Sure, absolutely. You know, and hopefully some of these movies that I have produced and acted in, you know, capture someone's attention that would, you know, because I'm happy to accept the role, you know, and not have to be one of the producers. But I'm not. I don't. When I was younger, I was more concerned about, how come I'm not auditioning? And, our friends are like, yeah, did you go in for that movie? And I'm like, and I'd be all like, oh, I didn't get a call. And now I don't even think about that stuff. It doesn't even, it's not a conversation piece anymore for me. It's, I love the fact that I don't have to drop what I'm doing at the drop of a hat because somebody needs me to learn 10 pages for tomorrow morning. Because I just got to, like I get a message now from my agent saying, hey, that won't happen. I mean, it does on occasion, but it used to happen all the time. And I would jump, and now I don't. Again, it's not because I don't respect what they do. It's just I'm doing my own thing. If it aligns with my time frame and I can do it and I want to, I most definitely will. But I love that I'm preparing now to shoot another Western in hopefully in September, October,
Would that
with
be with
Alex.
Joe and would that be with Joe and Alexander?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's I mean, we obviously worked together on the Wide West, which I'm happy to talk about as well, and was an amazing experience, obviously. And
Yeah, I love to talk about it. Well,
yeah,
first of all, I will say this. I mean, Alexander is like the most generous star. I mean, he is incredibly generous. I mean, he will sit there and he'll talk about the entire cast and not himself. You
oh,
know, I it's
absolutely.
yes. I mean, he's a
He
he's all put up. He's a rising international star. And he's
definitely.
one that didn't want to just sit there and just wait for it to come to him.
Yeah,
Him and Joe decided to work together.
yeah,
And they have produced. To me, I think they've done some great independent
yeah.
western. Um,
Well, they've done 3 westerns together and 1 horror, as far as I know. They
yes,
did. They did the first 2 Rio Bravo movies,
yes.
and then Wide West, obviously. They did a movie,
Night of the Caregiver
Night
with
of the Caregiver, exactly. And the western we're going to be doing is the third in that trilogy of the
Rio Bravo.
gunfight. Yeah, exactly. So they have a wonderful working relationship, and I mean, both of them were uh, so
Yes,
generous. And I mean, Alex, we've become business partners and producing partners, and he never ceases to amaze me. So he organized a screening at the Japanese Foundation in Los Angeles. I don't know. I think it was beginning of June, and um, it. And then after there was photo ops in front of the poster and all that kind of stuff, and there were interviews, and he made a point of making sure everyone who was there, and I'm talking everyone, like people had small parts that happened to be there, the costume designer, the makeup and hair, you name it. He was mentioning them by name, bringing
yes,
them over to do photos. Hey, don't forget Nick, come in, and he had an interview with Fuji, the Fuji network, which is a big network in Japan, and he literally invited me over to come and join him in his
yes.
interview. And that to me is like, there's nothing like it. I've never seen anything like it,
I
really.
never see anything like that either. I mean, really, of all the shows I've talked to, I mean, everybody's been very nice and very easy to
Yeah.
talk with. But Alexander just and Joe both,
Yeah. No, Joe was so much fun to work with. Such a, just a good guy. He was great to work with as an actor because we did scenes together. He plays the bad guy in the movie, and I play basically well, one of the good guys anyway. I guess probably the goodest guy.
oh,
But I mean, Alex's character, has a nice arc because it's, often he is. Did I lose you? Am I here by myself? Should I do a song and dance?
Sorry about that. It's the curse of Aster. I actually got a new phone, but unfortunately my phone was echoing. My new phone was echoing, so I had to go to my
Mm,
phone. And when it gets really warm, it kicks me off. So
gotcha.
hopefully that won't happen, but maybe one more time.
Nothing
Uh,
worse than when you get that feedback and you're hearing your own voice coming back at
yeah,
you. That's not fun.
I got, I set it up as I did, and I'm thinking, okay, why am I hearing echo? Because all my sound's down on my computer but it's coming through the phone, and we're like, well, that's
Uh,
really weird. How's that happening?
yeah.
So I'll have to figure that out.
Well,
Um,
hopefully it works okay moving forward. But I was just saying that it was great fun working with Joe, both as an actor and as a director.
yeah,
Gave me a lot of freedom as well, and um, yeah, it was just that was an incredibly fun set to work on. It really was. Alex's his ultimate goal always is to have fun. Like, we're making movies here. We're not saving the world. Of course we're serious and we got to show up on time. We got to know our lines and we got to be prepared and whatnot. But, let's enjoy ourselves. And we're making movies. It's what we love to do. And it's what we would do it for free. It's something that we would do as a hobby if it wasn't something that we were, passionate enough and not and lucky enough to be able to make a living at. And sometimes we make a good living, sometimes it's not as good a living. It depends on where we're at, like I was saying earlier on. But I'm like, that's okay. And every time I make a movie, every time I play a role, and it could be any kind of role, I'm always super excited about it, because it's like it was a dream of mine as a kid, and sometimes I pinch myself to think that I still do it. And when I get an opportunity to be on a set, it doesn't matter what set, um, I'm just, I really am giddy about it, and I just love it. I've never taken it for granted. I've never felt like, oh, I should be here, or whatever. I get it. I've been around long enough to know, like, that's, everybody
well, I
has
mean,
their own
I, I,
journey.
I think I rather work 10 small projects a year than doing the one.
Yeah.
Here, you're gonna do F1 this year. Okay, what else am I doing? That's it.
Hmm.
No, I rather do, malicious. I rather do turbulence. I
Yeah.
rather do, the Wide
Yeah.
West. I rather do that. I rather be busy, working smaller roles, but at least I'm still busy. I can go from one project to
Yeah.
another to another. It's not like you said, it's not the money, it's a body of work, like you have over
Yeah.
70 credits. That's a
Yeah.
lot of that's a lot of credits.
Yeah.
It's a legacy to be proud of.
Yeah. Thank you.
We have
Thank
a
you.
question for you. Do you have a YouTube channel to
No, I'm not very
you
good with social media and stuff. I have an Instagram, so that's at Nick Baillie one, because I'm not the only Nick Baillie apparently.
oh,
So,
okay.
um,
Uh, uh, how
and
how
then I've
how
got
did
Facebook. Facebook
how
and
did you
Instagram are the only things I use.
um how did you meet Joe and Alexander? I mean, you're in Canada and they're in
Yeah,
Los
yeah,
Angeles.
yeah.
So how did you
Well,
guys
okay.
meet?
Well, so since 2008, I've been going to LA. Um, I have a visa to work in the U.S. I'm allowed to work as an actor in the U.S. even though I'm Canadian. I'm not a citizen of the U.S., but I have what's called an O1 visa, so it allows me to work.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, we're not the 51st state yet, and so so I've been going there since 2008, and I would go, for pilot season and whatnot, and I would spend, 3 or 4 months in the winter, whatever I could afford, and I would audition. Sometimes I'd book roles, other times I would not get any roles, and then I would go home with my tail between my legs, and I would regroup and come back the following year. Now again, I've established myself more, and I have a place in LA now that I spend, give or take, about half the year there.
Okay.
So I'm there a lot. So I do have a residence there. And so I met Alex and Joe actually at the same time. So when um, after we shot Malicious, I went to the American film market with John and Kevin in, I guess it was end of 2022. So we shot it in like April, May of 2022. At the end of the year, we went to AFM. We already had our distributor and sales agent, and they were promoting. We already had a poster and everything, so we wanted to go and we got our badges and everything, and we did the whole spiel. John works with JoeBlow.com, the review website. So that's his baby, and so he was there as both a representative of Joe Blow and to represent his movie, Malicious. And he was like, "Oh, I've worked with these guys." He had worked with Alex before. He promoted a lot of Alex's movies, and he was very helpful to Alex. And Alex returned the favor and was like, "I want to put you in my movie." So John has a role in the two Rio Bravo movies, and he's really good. He's actually an excellent actor. He doesn't do much acting these days, mostly writing and directing, but he's actually a really good actor. And he plays this guy Samuel. He's like an undertaker. He's just kind of like a bit of comedic relief, and he's great in it. So, and John had said to me during the pandemic, he got to know Alex, and Alex had told him, I'll put you in one of my movies. And John was like, yeah, I've heard that one before. People promise me that shit all the time, especially him being a movie reviewer guy. And sure enough, Alex flew him to Arizona, put him up in a hotel, paid him, gave him the role he said he was going to give him. And John was like, I can count on one hand, on one finger, like how many people have that type of integrity in our business.
Yes.
Very few people. And John is one of those people as well. And so is Alex. And so he introduced me to them at the AFM, him and Joe. And Alex is, as you know, he's a very imposing figure. And boy, it was like, wow, holy shit, this guy's, 6'5", 250 pound, he ex-Mr. Universe, still, looks like Mr. Universe. And
he's massive. I always give him a hard time. I always think that Joe does this on the sly. But one of the funniest things I love about their movies is the first time we see Alexander on a horse. It's always entertaining as hell to me because he's so much bigger than the horse.
I know that's the one thing in our movie that I kind of wish we had gotten a bigger horse. If you see,
I say Clydesdale, but
at the end of our movie, you see him going off in the sunset, and it almost looks like a pony. So, if there's one thing I wish we could have back, or whatever, is to have gotten a larger horse, because he's, it was a normal size horse. I mean, in the scene we do, you see the horse there. He's, but when Alex is on it, I mean, it almost dwarfs the horse. So it was a little bit comedic, unfortunately. So that was not.
I know it wasn't intended to be fun, but but it does add a little bit of levity to the film. And it just tells you really how imposing the Alexander is. And it's not such a bad thing. You sit there and go like,
no, absolutely. But the funny thing is that when you put him up against these sumo wrestlers, it's a whole other ball game. And if you talk to him about it, he kind of jokes the fact that when we first started filming, he put on like 30 pounds because he thought he needed to be like, closer to them. And he was like, didn't make a friggin' difference. In the end, these guys, I mean, they're 560 pound, 6'6", 6'5". They're basically the same height as Alex, but they are, almost 200 pounds heavier than him. And are actually, currently over 200 pounds. I mean, incredible, so Alex would joke about that because he's always used to being the biggest man in the room, and now here he is like looking definitely not like the biggest man in the room. So,
you know what, when I talked to him about the Wide West, when I talked with him on Tatiana and Joe, do you know he was happy about that? He was happy not to be the biggest one on the screen,
Definitely, yeah.
He was like, and he felt, he's like, he did ask Joe. He did say, Joe, will this, will I look okay? And and he says, yeah, you certainly will. And you see him there, and he does. He
Of
looks
course.
perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Um,
and at the end of the day, size is not really what it's about. I mean, it
acting.
is for the guys, it is for the sumo guys, that obviously it is, but for the role he played, I mean, he's usually the hero guy, and there's kind of no variation from that. In this
I
in
thought I
this
thought I thought he played a more gray area guy this time. I
Yeah, that's
thought
what I
he was.
mean.
I
That's
thought
what I
yeah.
mean. In this role, he had a journey that, he had to sort of push his way through where he really wanted to go. He just wanted to make gamble and have some drinks and meet women, and for him to
I was
have
gonna
to,
say he met Sybil. To me, I'm thinking he's buying a house right there. He's buying a ranch
right?
right there. He doesn't need to go any
I
further than
know.
that.
I don't know why he
Um,
left, but hey, I'll tell you,
I,
we're looking at doing a sequel. Let's just put it that way. So, you know,
I would love to see it.
there's still room for them to, because that's a relationship I would love to see develop
Me
more.
too. Me
And
too.
Tatiana was so great. I mean, to segue into her, because you were mentioning her as somebody that you really admire, and what an
I do.
incredible woman to work with. I mean, she was so generous, so thoughtful.
Oh, the
She had these
costumes.
incredible wardrobe pieces,
No,
right? I mean,
eh,
and we were
Oscar
shooting.
worthy.
Yeah, we were
Oscar
shooting
worthy. I
in.
swear, I'm not saying that to be. I'm saying that is. I've never seen on a small budget film.
Mhm.
I have never seen the
Yeah,
wardrobe
yeah. Well,
that.
that was all her. That was
Yeah,
her. That was her going out there, and because she has experience with doing styling, and she was a professional model for many years. I think she still does it, and
yeah.
so she took it upon herself to choose these wardrobe pieces, and just absolutely, really, you know, dug deep, and I was like blown away by these outfits that she had, and we were shooting in like almost 100-degree weather, and she would be in this wardrobe, never complaining, never, didn't look like she had like one drip of sweat, and and yet she'd be asking us, hey, do you want a bottle of water?
Yeah.
Or to crew guys. I mean, I'm not joking. It was,
No, 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 no. That's exactly who
you know
she is. She. I
she
mean,
would or could be the diva that goes and sits in her trailer, and that was not her. She was always there, ready to help in any way she could. And then, of course, when we were filming, she was always 100% prepared. She was there for you. Like, let's say you were shooting and they weren't needed anymore, she would still stay behind the camera to give you the eye line. That type of actor
yeah.
is gold. And just
Do you
just a
still do you see that on sets? I mean, do you still see that kind of comradeship, peer to peer type of support? I mean, do you
yeah.
see that, or do you see a lot of people like once their scene is done, maybe they do go back to the trailer, or they do talk to some friends or
Most of the, in my experience, and even with like more famous actors, my experience has been that they at the end of the day, they're actors. They're not just people, celebrities, whatever, and they know what it's like being on the other side. And if you don't have somebody to work off of, it's much harder. I had to do a speech actually in the Wide West, where I'm talking to everyone. There was no one in the room. I had to create that. But like, and Tatiana and Alex wanted to give me eye lines, and I was like, guys, I appreciate it, but actually you're not in the scene, so it doesn't make sense for me to have you as an eye line. But thank you. And logistically it didn't make, we didn't have extras, and we didn't have people there, so I had to create that. And it's more challenging, when you have people there to to focus on and to
But you
give.
like challenging yourself. I could tell that just talking with you just now. I
Yeah,
mean, when I was watching Malicious, I was sitting there going, like,
yeah,
that's an actor who likes challenging himself, because there's a
yeah.
lot of
But
actors that would not have taken that role. They would have
yeah,
walked away from that role.
No, actually, you're right. And it scared the shit out of me. And that was like, okay, that's why I have to take this role. Yeah, I was scared because I didn't know that I could deliver. And obviously, I wanted John to be happy because he went to bat for me. He really went to bat for me, both him and Kevin. They wanted me from the get go. And there was a couple of different times where that could have not gone my way. And they really stuck with me, and in the end it paid off for all of us, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even the scene in the Wide West, like I actually, like when they were like, oh, I think we could probably bring some people in, I was like, guys, honestly, I'm good. I know I can do this. I know the speech, I know the room, I know who I'm talking to. Let's just do it. And hopefully I think it reads, you don't know, I'm telling you that. But and you're right, I kind of was like, part of me was kind of excited about the idea. And so I can work with no one there if I need to. But sometimes when it's a one-on-one thing, it's like, that was a bit different because it was a speech, and it was a big crowded room. But if it was one person and there was something very emotional or whatever, I think it would be much more helpful to have the person there to give me something to work off of. But sometimes you have no choice, and you got to do it to a tennis ball or something, or the first AD reading the lines, like, I mean, it happens sometimes. Yeah, it does. But most of the time, to answer your question, most actors, they want to be there for you. They really are sensitive to it.
Now, was this your first Western that you did in your career? Was this the first time you got
Yes,
to play a cowboy?
I did a short, but I was like basically kind of an extra in it. So I don't even include that. But and so yeah, this is really the first actual Western that I've been in, and
How'd you like the experience?
I loved it. I was like, I mean, it's like, so the town that we shot in, it was called White Horse Ranch, and I forgot the name of the actual town that it's close to, but it's basically about half an hour outside of Palm Springs, California. And so it's in the hills, in the dusty, dry, sandy, deserty hills. And our hotels were about half an hour away, or 20-minute drive away. So there was nothing closer. And it was built by this guy who is a German immigrant. I think he moved here maybe in the late 70s, or sorry, there in the late 70s. And he's still there. He's the armorer. His wife runs she's kind of like the face of the operation. She's the one you deal with when you're renting the place.
Sure.
And she has a whole wardrobe department. All our wardrobe, except for Tatiana's and Alex's, were from her. And as a matter of fact, I asked her if we could kind of pattern it after Gary Cooper in
High Noon.
High Noon. Yeah,
Nice.
if you look at my wardrobe and his, it's basically the same thing minus the badge, the star.
Right.
He was the sheriff, and I was the judge, because I felt there was a parallel. I felt there was, and again, sometimes I'll use another character as like inspiration. And,
You're absolutely right. You're right. That's right. When the judge asked for help, there was nobody to help him. But
exactly. So that's
good.
So that triggered that to me. I was like, I felt connected to that. And again, like, I grew up watching Westerns. I'm like, why wouldn't I want to, like, not that I'm trying to copy him, because I'm playing my own role, but there was something about that it was an ode to him for me. It was a real, I'm glad I made that choice. And so they helped me get that wardrobe, and she did an amazing job. And so they have, it's like a one-stop shop, really. They even have a lot of the background performers, and some of them had speaking roles, were from them. They're people that live in the area, and they have, like, I mean, they show up full on. They've got their their holsters and their outfits. I mean, it's amazing.
I was going to ask you had a gun? Did you get a chance to draw, practice drawing or shooting it? I mean, what did you think about having a 6-shooter on your hip? Was it
Well, I didn't actually have a 6-shooter. I ended up shooting a shotgun. I never actually had a sidearm. I take Alex's at the beginning of the movie, because we have that ordinance in town, and I ask him to relinquish his weapon. So I do handle one, but I never actually had one on because I'm not the sheriff, right? And but at the toward the end of the movie, when the shit hits the fan and we have to step up, I do fire a shotgun, which was a lot of fun to shoot. I mean, growing up in Canada, I guns were not really much of a thing for us, although we used to shoot like BB guns and 22s out at the cottage and stuff, but it wasn't something we really grew up with. And but it was fun. It was a fun so I was shooting blanks in the movie. And yeah, maybe in the next one I'll I'm gonna have more to do in that realm. I'm gonna be able to ride a horse. I didn't get to ride a horse this time, so and there's a good chance I'll play a bad guy in this one. Get to ride a horse.
Okay. I know it was so fun. I was sitting there without giving too much away. I loved the ending of the Wild West. It was such a twist, and then I was even more happier at the twist is that they got to ride away into the sunset. And I'm like, that is so cool because they went against type, and not, So I was like, thank you for not, thank you because the ending you would think that would, but I'm thinking, thank you so much for not doing that. I love the fact. Yeah. I think personally, I think Joe had a hell of a lot of fun.
He did. I mean, actually, I think he brought his own wardrobe as well. And as you can see, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff. He's an avid horse guy, and he has a lot of experience. I mean, I think he directed 2 other westerns prior to working with Alex, right? And
Guilt Ridge. I'm trying to think of the other one, but he did Guilt Ridge. I have that, and he did one more.
Yeah, I forgot the other one. But
Carrie is also an expert. She's another.
That's right. She's been in most, if not all, of his movies, and she was great to work with as well. So, but Joe was a lot of fun. I really had a great time. It was an amazing team. The sumo guys were fantastic. They didn't speak English, but they were, we found ways of communicating, and they had an interpreter, Andrew Freund, who was also a producer on the film, and he helped like sculpt all the scenes with the sumo guys. So him and Joe worked together because they needed to have somebody to communicate with, and then they needed, because Andrew understands, he lived in Japan for I don't know how many years, 20, 25 years. He lived there a long time. He's American, but and he's their manager. They tour the world, and they do like exhibition matches and stuff like that. So he knows what is authentic and how things need to be done specifically for how sumo is done properly. So anything that was sumo related, anything that was Japanese related, was all very meticulously looked over by Andrew. So that was those scenes, it was basically Andrew and Joe working on them, versus a lot of our other scenes was Joe and Alex. So it was fun working with the sumo guys. They were really great. Great sports. We did that sumo match in, it was about 98 degrees in the baking sun, middle of, like, it was about 3:00 in the afternoon. The sun was going down. We needed to get we needed to get these shots before we lost the light. And I mean, you see those scenes with them sweating and getting ready. That's not makeup. They're not spraying them down. I mean, these guys, it was legit. And they never complained. At least not to my knowledge. They certainly didn't. I mean, they were amazing. They're like Zen masters who really.
What really impressed me too was the fact that they just got done doing John Wick 4.
Mm-hmm.
They just got done doing that, or one of them had. That's like a $150 million set production, and then they come to the smaller set, the Western set. And Alexander commented on that too. It was almost like they didn't notice. All they know is that they're glad to be here. They're excited to see what's going to happen. I mean, can you think of really any major star? I'm sitting here. Well, I'm thinking sort of reverse. I'm thinking, it was nice seeing Scott Adkins actually tell you the truth. He's done a lot of smaller independent martial arts films too, and I'm a huge fan of his, and it frustrates the hell out of me when I see him do another kung fu movie, another street, and I keep on saying, well, he deserves to go on a bigger set. He
Yeah.
deserves that. And then
Yeah.
finally they gave him the role in John Wick 4, and so he got to go up, a massive level to John Wick 4.
Yeah.
And then the sumo wrestlers, they did that set and then came and did
Yeah.
your and
Yeah.
the dedication that they did, and you're right. That's they everything they filmed of those other wrestlers is exactly how it is in Japan. It's the same width of the circle, the
Yeah.
same, so, I mean, it was amazing. But that's one
Well,
of the things I really like about Alexander and Joe. I love the fact they bring historical history
yeah.
to their films.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wish more would.
just to quickly touch on what you were saying about the sumo wrestlers. I mean, they're true professionals, right? And that's the way you should be. It doesn't matter what set you're on. There's no small roles, only small actors, and there's a reason why they use that expression. Because, if you're hired to do something, you do it. Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as what you put forward. So if you're coming in half-assed, that says more about you than it says about the production you're working on. Thinking, oh well, it's a dink, Ricky Dink, whatever. It's not John Wick 4 or whatever. It's like, no, I have enough self-respect and integrity for what I do to always bring my A game. And for these guys, it was also an opportunity for them to have not just be a silent sumo guy. They had dialogue, and they had emotion, and there was like a lot going on there. An opportunity for them to do some additional acting that they might not get to do in some of the other movies, where they get really stereotyped as certain. I mean, obviously we're also casting them as sumo guys, but there's more to it. So it gave them an additional challenge, which I know they really appreciated, and they actually one of them mentioned that we did a Q&A after the screening of the Japan Foundation, and that was one of the things people asked, like, what was one of the things you really loved about it, and it was that I could speak in my movie. I could say something. I had a speaking role, and so and then to add to what you were saying about what Joe and Alex bring to the table as far as having historical stories that actually they're based on real stories, and that's one of the reasons why it's like what I like about certain types of movies and what attracted to me to this movie. Because originally Alex and I were gonna do another horror movie similar to
Oh,
the Night of the Caregiver, something different, but like in that realm,
sure.
and then he came to me and he was like, look, I've got this idea, what do you think? And I was like, we hadn't like gone too far down the road. We had the script for the other movie, but we hadn't gone too far down that road. And I was like, hey, this sounds like a great idea. And they had done well already with the two. Well, the second Rio Bravo movie hadn't come out yet, but the first one had been really well received. They were making good returns on it. They, had worldwide sales. So he was really excited about it. And he was like, I feel like this could really be, a great opportunity. And so we went with that. And I love the idea that it's based on a real story. It's loosely based, but still it is based on a real story. And then it's fun to give people at the end of the movie, sort of a bit about how it all
Who they
came to
were.
be, who this guy was, and Theodore Roosevelt, and things that you didn't know about him. We all know who he is, but we don't know much about him if we haven't studied American history, which most people probably haven't. And you find out some cool stuff about him, and to me that makes it interesting and fun, that it's rooted in reality. It's something that wasn't just created.
I like the idea too. I enjoy their casting. I wish more, one of the cool things too, again, I'll take the opportunity to give them, Joe and Alexander, full credit. They had Cynthia Rothrock come on in for the second Rio Bravo, and it inspired her to do a Western. She went ahead and made Black Creek, And of course, I don't know why, obviously, but man, it's a it's a real shame. You would think someone like a Cynthia Rothrock, the doors would open. Like she has a name, she has a reputation. People love Cynthia Rothrock, and I don't know why it took so long for that to happen. For her movie to finally get, I
Yeah.
think it took them over 2 years. 2 years, I think it took for
Mm.
Cynthia to get her movie out. Um,
Mm.
and I
It
know,
happens sometimes, it happens sometimes. I mean,
you know,
even
I,
some
I
of the
get that.
biggest, some of the big, I mean, even Martin Scorsese, it can take him, quite some time to get a movie off the ground. It's surprising, but it's
Hmm.
what makes it so special in a way, uh, that you can actually take an idea, turn it into a script, get a team together, find the money, film it, complete it, make sure you get everything, all the pieces you need to give to the editor and so that they can really do the magic. Because and I think that's the process that's you know probably the most integral in
I,
the
I,
whole process of filmmaking.
I just sitting there, I'm watching. Because I've been following her. I've been following the progress, and it's funny. So I was following the progress before the second Rio Bravo movie came out. I mean,
Mm,
she'd been trying to get it, get it going, before obviously they had come together to do the second Rio Bravo film, and
yeah,
and then and because to me it's like the one genre that is really underrepresented is the Western. I mean, once in a while we'll get a big budget Western. We'll get the remake of the Magnificent
yeah,
Seven, or like
yeah,
Once in a Great Blue Moon. But
yeah,
we'll get. But look what happens to Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner is rolled the dice on his and came up with Snake Eyes. And it's like you have to do it right. You have to do the Western right for people to respond to it. He
definitely.
misfired. He misfired. He did it. Whatever the reason. Now, a lot of times people they were sitting there going like, well, that just shows you that the Western is dead. Who says?
No,
Who
it's
says
far
that? Who
from
says,
dead.
it's like what every single movie comes out on a genre, it stumbles,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the whole damn genre is dead. You just
If
have
it's
to know how
done
to
well, if it's
run.
done well, I don't care what genre you're talking about. It will capture people's attention. If there's a good story, and if it's executed well, and you have good performances,
And see,
and
that's what happened with Kevin Costner.
it'll find a way. It'll find its audience.
I mean, that's the reason when the reviews I read really commented on the story, saying how simplistic it was and how non-challenging it was and how many holes there were. I mean,
Mm,
it doesn't. They were going to. You can't just okay. That happens to his movie, but you just can't sit there as a journalist and sit there and say, well, this must mark the end of the end of a genre.
no,
Every movie comes
not
out and
not even
stumbles.
close.
It does stumble out. You
And
just got
even
to keep.
and even even if it did stumble, like even if the genre, let's say, became less, uh, you know, in the forefront, it's probably because just there's less of them being made. But things have, they have like peaks and valleys, and stuff comes back. The romantic comedy may not be popular now, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like a big thing, or the horror movies. I mean, I think there's some movies that always do well, action, horror, they're always there, and it's partly why we wanted to do a horror movie, right? Because we thought, well, there's a good chance we're gonna get a return on our money, essentially.
Yeah.
But and I've done a few horror movies, and they're not as interesting to me as a western. So to me, the idea of the western was like, that's a genre I've never done. I grew up in Canada. That's not something we do here. But I watched them, and I was like, that is something that really interests me and intrigues me, and it's something that has a lot of merit, and it's not just about and like, because it sells in America, but it doesn't sell everywhere else, right? Not everyone around the world wants to watch a western.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
part of the reasoning
But a lot of
behind.
people want to see Alexander. It's just,
Yeah,
I don't want to compare him to this, but it's sort of like, but it's just like, Arnold or Dolph,
yeah,
maybe people don't want to see a Western, but all of a sudden you tell them that Dolph or Arnold's in it or Alexander's in it, all of a sudden it's like
Yeah.
Alexander's in it. Oh, sign me
Yeah.
up. I like to, I like very much
Yeah.
to be a part of that. Part
Yeah.
of it has to do with the casting too. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
who do you
Yeah.
have in the
Yeah.
cast? Well, they
And
always
also there's action, right? Like the third Rio Bravo, the intent behind it's going to be very action heavy. So it's not just a Western, it's an action Western, and
right,
with Wide West, there's a Japanese element to it that, we want to be able to sell it in Japan. Big audience there. And so that really opens up a lot of doors. And especially in view of the fact that what we did, we did it in an authentic way. As a matter of fact, very quick side thing, when Alex sent me the rough cut, to get my notes and my thoughts on it, one of the things I pointed out was the preamble, the preparation that they do in the scene where they're about to do the sumo match.
right.
It's quite a long lead up, right? Like they're getting prepared, they're throwing
Oh,
that salt, they're doing a certain, it's almost ritualistic, right?
yeah.
And I said, I think we need to tighten that up. I think we need to get to the action, like as an American audience, thinking it from an American perspective. And his response to that was, well, that's how it's actually done, and that's what the Japanese viewers want, because that's authentic. And
Right.
so we have, and as far from Andrew's perspective, we need to keep it that way. That's what's authentic. It's what's real. And to me, it was kind of like, okay, I get it. It's kind of like, but in the end, I was like, no, you're right. I mean, we have to stick to what's authentic, even if from my perspective, I'm kind of like, I'm impatient. I want to get to it. Um, in Japan, that will
I
be,
found that scene to be fascinating, quite honest
yeah,
with you.
me too.
I
Me
thought it
too.
was interesting. I'm going like, wow, this is just
Yeah.
it reminded me of a chess match.
Yeah. Well,
It really did.
it was a teachable moment for me personally, because I have my views and I was like, no, this, that, and the other. And Alex is always open to my perspectives. And he certainly took a bunch of my notes as well. But he would explain to me, this is the reason why we're doing this. And I was like, wow, you know what? Okay, I get it. I accept that. Like I'm, that I respect that, and I'm good with it. And hopefully, the Japanese audience will really receive it well. And like you said, it was, I actually, when I rewatched it, the final version, with the sound and everything, it actually works great. It's a little bit different when you're looking at a rough cut and there's no sound, there's no
Right.
color correction, there's no, they haven't even synced things properly. It's a real first rough draft. So anyway, that was a little side note there.
So what do you got coming up next? I mean, as far as I know, you're still promoting the Wide West. They
Yeah.
made it. It was funny because I'm sitting over here talking to them. I'm going like, so what's the third Rio Bravo going? Because I'm just hooked on that. I'm hooked,
Yeah.
and they're going like, wait a minute. We still got a long way to go. We still got at least, we're still going to be on the road for 6 more weeks promoting the Wide West. We just
Yeah.
can't just, I'm like, of course, they're absolutely 100% right. And, we're still
Yeah.
promoting the movie even today.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost like you can promote a movie just about any time. Here we are promoting Malicious, and it came out in
Yeah.
2023. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people need to see that movie. In fact, one of those guys, I'm gonna recommend he goes over check it out.
Yeah.
Film director
Yeah,
Chad.
just quick side with that. I mean, for whatever reason, it kind of dropped off the map for some reason, and I'm not exactly sure why. Because
Pretty
it
violent. It's pretty
it
violent.
is, but it got a lot of really positive. If you go to the IMDb and stuff, and it's gotten quite a bit of positive whatever attention, for lack of a better term. The reviews were all good. You're right. It's not easy to watch, but it's something that I think if people knew it was out there, would appreciate. The people that do appreciate a movie like that.
I don't think I've
But
seen a movie like that since I saw Martyrs. I think it's been
yeah,
Martyrs. That's the last movie I could think of. Was just
yeah,
straight out, just like
Hmm.
Wow, I mean, it's like I would share this movie with a lot of people, but there's some people I would not because I think
No,
they
fair enough.
I don't think they could handle it.
No, I
It's
mean, look, yeah, I agree. There are some friends of mine that I said, like, honestly, I don't like, I almost don't want you to watch it, because because I feel bad if, whatever, you're kind of like, meh, they probably won't like it, So, I totally get that.
I want to ask you a couple more questions, if you can. We're getting
Yep.
close to our time, but I want to ask you a couple of questions. To me, it's really curious that you mentioned that you've done, and I already know some of the people in the chat are going to go like, "Here he goes again." But yes, I have to do it. So you mentioned before about doing a lot of Lifetime movies, right? Obviously, we can see right now, you have leading man looks. You've done leading man roles. Now you've been on a lot of Lifetime movies, so my question is, have you done any Hallmark movies, or would you consider doing any of those Hallmark movies, or are they just too slow for the kind of acting that you want to do? You want to do more
Well,
action?
at this point, I'm not really interested anymore. But back in the day, I did one Hallmark, but it
You
was
did one.
I played a small role in it. So um, no, I mean, I don't want to diss Hallmark, but it's not something that it's just too formulaic, and kind of like a little bit, I don't
I
know.
was gonna say do a mystery. Those mysteries, they surprise you.
Yeah,
They're worthy. They're worthy. I'm not kidding you.
yeah.
I mean,
No,
do you
look,
like one?
I mean, the Lifetime ones, some of them were really great, and they
Mhm.
had like a lot of good elements to them, and I enjoyed doing them, and I did everything from leading roles to, one day parts, like, and I probably did 15 of them over the years, or 10, 12, 15, whatever, quite a few. So I ran the gamut on it, and honestly, every experience was great for me. I can't think of one that I didn't enjoy. Worked with a whole bunch
Oh,
of
I
really
think
great.
the Lifetime movies. I haven't watched a lot of them. I watched a few. Like one of my favorite ones I watched was totally unexpected. It was called Blindside, and it was
Mm.
a remake of Wait Until Dark, and it starred Michelle Monaghan and Michael Keaton. And I did
Oh,
not
nice.
expect it. Yeah, it was good. I was like, it was great. The
Well, that's
ending
a.
is like,
I mean, that's a good cast. I mean, that's Lifetime.
that was Lifetime. That
Wow.
was
Okay.
Lifetime. Catherine Bell did one.
Okay.
Last Man Standing. I was like, Catherine Bell? All right. Yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
Well, the
I'm
one
here
I
for
the
it.
one I did with Daryl Hannah was a Lifetime movie, and
Oh,
that was
awesome.
and that was 2007. So that was before. I think it was before she did Kill Bill. So, it was she wasn't in her prime per se, but she was, definitely very well known, and a joy to work with too. I was a very nervous to work with her because I was, quite a bit younger and didn't have a ton under my belt. And just quick side story: I had my very very first day. I had to do two love scenes with her. My very first day, and
Wow.
back then I used to smoke cigarettes, and I was like a pack a day smoker, and I was like, I can't, So I was super nervous. I was out of town, so I wasn't at home, and I'm about to shoot this movie with this very famous actress who I'd grown up watching, and I have to kiss her. They weren't like naked love scenes, but they were, kissing,
Right.
passionate type scenes. And I'm like, I can't smell like smoke, so I didn't smoke that whole day. Which, if you know anything about addiction, particularly nicotine addiction, it's no easy task. Plus, like I said, I had the pressure of playing this role, and I didn't have a ton under my belt at that time. And anyway, she was a joy to work with, and let's just say by the end of that day, that finally, because out of respect to her, I didn't want to smell like an ashtray, and
Right.
you know, just yeah,
I'm
I'm
sure
sure it
she
would have been fine.
appreciated that. I think back then she smoked as well because I know that she smoked during Kill Bill,
Yeah,
but
she didn't.
maybe
She wasn't smoking then, and if she did, she hit it well. And if I had known, I probably would have been like, "Hey, let's go have a smoke together," and then no one's gonna care. But at the end of that day, I'll tell you that was a celebratory cigarette I had when I wrapped that day and successfully, did my scenes with her, and but it was a great because it was a really nice role, and she was lovely to work with. So yeah, lots of great experiences
Dude,
with life.
let's look at that. Let's look at the lineup of the ladies you get to work with. I got to tell you, I was really impressed with Alex Lane, the young who played your stepdaughter.
Yeah, yeah,
She's got some chops too.
she's a very good actor, very good actor.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
I thought she
fantastic.
did really really well. And I was thinking, wow, and especially for someone so young and such a heavy ass role, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And I did
yeah.
like this.
No,
I liked the screenplay that her dad took her out during the most extreme scenes. And I like that as well. I said,
yeah,
I would not want to
mhm,
sit there and have a 17-year-old girl see
yeah,
this, and it's like,
yeah,
and the script was smart, and they said, well, yeah, this is a revenge movie, but we don't have to go that far. I like that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, it showed some humanity. There's a bit of
right.
humanity in it.
Um, so what was it like? I mean, because obviously that's probably the most beat up you ever been in one of your roles. So what was it like doing the makeup every day for you? I mean, was that just something that was that the most extensive makeup that you've ever had?
No, I mean, I've done some pretty, I've played zombies and stuff, so I've had some stuff that's, been pretty, pretty involved, or it takes quite some time to put together. But um, I'd still have to sit in the chair for a while, especially for the later scenes. Thankfully, it was done in sequence. So once we got to that point, it was like, okay, Nick, you're fucking tied up for the next week. And, every day you're going to be full of blood. And we have to, again, matching the shirt with the blood and this it starts to get really complicated. So it's a little bit easier when you're doing it in sequence. But, I would be in the chair for a while, making sure, yeah, she did a great job. Ray,
Yeah.
putting all that together it was just, to me, it felt very real. And we tried to make it as authentic, other than me being able to stand on a kneecap that's been shattered. But other than that, yeah, no, it was definitely, um, challenging I mean, I remember I played a role, and we were shooting here in Toronto, actually, and there was a TV show called The Listener, and it was and I was covered in blood, and we were outdoors, and I was in a like a they were putting me into an ambulance on one of those whatever gurney things, and
Right.
it was 20 below zero. I mean, it was, yeah, and it's made out of, like, I can't remember what it's made of, but it's almost like a sugary substance that the blood's made of. Because
Frozen
if
face.
you mouth and stuff, it's not toxic. And it just like congealed, and like
Oh,
had I was a businessman, so I only had like a shirt on like this, but it was like long sleeve, but still, that was it. And then full of blood, and I mean, it was that. I mean, that was only one night, but it was a long night, and I think that was probably worse than dealing with what I dealt with on Malicious. But Malicious was day after day after day after day, and it does start to get to you, when they're
yeah.
throwing that energy at you. And even on the crew, jokingly would be calling me, perv and this and that. At a certain point, you internalize that, and it
Yeah,
does start to
I
just,
wouldn't want to do that. I'd be very aware of, you don't want to celebrate the role or mock the role.
no,
I'm
yeah,
playing a sex
yeah,
offender.
yeah,
I don't think that's sort of,
no,
but I like the idea though. I mean, you could joke a little bit, but not like that. I like some. I mean, I've talked to actors who had to play abusers, and and they've done some heavy roles, and a couple of actors are sitting there going like, I can't tell you when I was going through that role, I cannot tell you how I could not wait for them to say cut.
hmm
You know,
well, that's what
and
I
so
mean by, like, I would jump out of it, and I'd be more light and joking and whatever, because it's like you want to like you want to kind of expel that, you don't want to hold on to it, or
mm,
I should say, I don't want to, because every
Right.
actor has a different process. The woman that played my wife, who was also excellent, um, she was more method, and she would sit there in that place while we were going between shots and stuff. She respected my process and didn't have an issue with me being the way I was, thankfully. I mean, I didn't, I wasn't like joking in her face either, because she needed to be somewhere that kept that level of intense emotion, and I understand that, and I respect that. So everyone has their way of doing it. At the end of the day, as long as what ends up on the screen works, I don't care what your process is. I just hope it doesn't make you psychotic. You know what I mean? Like, because for
Right.
some people, it can turn them into these people, and it wasn't the case with them, but I've heard stories, about other actors that they kind of become, they become this character and stuff, and you have to call them by their name and offset and
I
whatever.
know I think Ben Foster's probably the most well-known method actor that I know, and he did that movie with Will Smith where he was a escaped slave, and Ben Foster's character was chasing him. Will
Mm.
Smith Will Smith said he did not meet Ben Foster until the day after the shooting is over with. He did not know. He wouldn't talk to him, wouldn't be
Oh,
around him. And that
okay.
the day after the
Yeah.
shooting, he walked there and says, "Hi, my name's Ben." It's like Jesus Christ,
Wow.
they were out there for weeks out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a little rough.
I mean,
Um,
if it's a good performance, so be it. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the person, the actor, in a adverse mental way where it makes the whole experience miserable. Like, if he had a good time and he loved what he was doing and he was happy, at the end of the day, and he delivered a great performance, then more power to him. For me, that doesn't work. I have used method in certain instances, like when I played the priest who was possessed by the devil. I did keep some of that at certain points in certain scenes, because I felt I really needed. That's a hard place to just jump in and out of. I mean,
right.
it was out there, and you don't want to make it out there so it looks like you're just an actor pretending to be crazy. I mean, I really had to get into that. That was actually pretty kind of scary to go through, but
Mm.
but I didn't take it home with me. I kept it for the day, to keep in that zone, and the production respected that. But when I was done for the day. In malicious, I mean, I would jump in and out just because I just needed to, because it was a lot for me.
Yeah. Um, we have well, we've gone way past our mark. I've had a ball with this one. This was a
Yeah,
lot of fun
thank you.
talking to you, Nick.
You too.
Uh, yeah, I would definitely have to do this again for
For
sure.
sure, I'd love to. Yeah, that
But,
flew by. My gosh, an hour and a half. Wow.
we have to give a shout out to Alexander who
For
knocked on
sure.
my door and said, "Hey, dude, you're missing out. You need to talk to Nick. Get your ass
Yeah,
moving." You got a big
I
man, and
appreciate
we
it.
got him on here. We talked
Yeah,
about the Wide West, malicious, still hero unlocked. With working with Dina and share the same movie with Victoria Pratt,
yeah,
two of my absolutely favorites. I was just sitting there like, man, it's good to be the king.
right. It was the trifecta.
Yeah, you get to work with
Oh,
Daryl
thank you.
Hannah, I got to work with Tatiana. It's like
Yeah,
and Carrie and Madeline and me.
yeah,
It's just like, holy
yeah,
cow, this is amazing. I'm so
yeah.
glad you're gonna come back for Rio Bravo.
Yep.
Of course, yeah, though, hell yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy with it. I cannot wait for that. I'm a Western guy, as you can probably, I don't know if you can tell this or not, but my channel name is Have Cheetah Will View, which is a
Nice.
kickoff of Have Gun Will Travel. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, and my pet cheetah, who's right above you there, his name is Paladin, and
oh, there. Okay, I was wondering. Okay, that's.
that's
Yeah,
Paladin right there. So
I
named him
appreciate
after
it.
where Richard Boone played. Um, Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us. A lovely discussion with you, Nick.
Yeah.
And
You too, man. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate, if it wasn't for guys like you, we were so grateful to have your support, to help
I
get
love it. I love
our
Joe. I love
message
Joe
to
and
the
Alexander.
audience.
I
Yeah.
love them both. I think they're just tremendous human beings. Plus, anybody that they're riding with, count me
Yeah.
in. I want to thank you for the chat who's been riding with me this afternoon, and
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Uh, Van Girl Cheryl. Well, I think she went to get ice cream. And Brene and Ava. You can share this one with the captain. I think you probably like this one. And who else came in that I need to say? Chadwick came in. Chadwick Whitmere. He's a film director based out of Atlanta. And who else came in and say hi that I did not miss? Oh, Stephen Stephen came by. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Speaking of horror films, we'll be back tomorrow night with like one of our. Oh, Dylin was in the chat, and we'll be talking with Dylin tomorrow. Dylin Fawn Harvey, lovely actress. If you do a horror film, hire her. She's amazing. She's a hardworking, very sweet actress, and it only would elevate your movie. That's all I gotta say about that. She works her ass off, and she'll be here tomorrow night, and we'll be hanging out talking about werewolves, which is always a good thing. That's right. Nick, stay right there for a quick second. I'm gonna say goodnight to the chat. Thank you again for coming out. We only had one incidence of Astor's curse. Hopefully that will I can get my phone fixed by tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow night for Dylin Fun Harvey. Peace.